Hello and welcome to an episode that deals with media's representation of gender. I am Shivangi Anand and the expert today is Ruchi Jaggi, who has 10 years of experience in the media sector. She has had 7 years of experience in teaching media education and research. She has probed the domain of media effects as a part of her academic research. Today, we are going to examine the role of the media in representing gender and shaping the audience perception of gender roles. Communication helps us understand the world around us. It is through communication that we define and shape our social and cultural world. The media is a popular and widespread vehicle of communication. Since it is all-pervasive and powerful, it also shapes our understanding of different constructs, including gender. Media, in short, represents our social realities. Let us first look at the concept of media and gender. Gender is perhaps the basic category we use for sorting human beings, essential elements of our own identity and the identities we assume other people to have come from concepts of gender. What does it mean to be a boy or a girl? For example, many objects, not just humans, are represented by the media as being particularly masculine or feminine in the field of advertising, and we grow up with an awareness of what constitutes appropriate characteristics. Communication plays a vital role in shaping and reinforcing the understanding of gender. In addition, one gender is defined in relation to the other. Through the process of communication, we socially construct what it means to be masculine and feminine in our culture. As the media is a public platform for social communication, it tends to construct gender as a social phenomenon which is accepted and believed to be the right depiction of the society. In mediating events and issues, television, film, video games, and other media are involved in selecting, constructing, and representing reality. In so doing, the media tend to emphasize and reinforce the values and images of those who create the messages and own the means of dissemination. In addition, these values and images are often influenced by commercial considerations. As a result, the viewpoints and experiences of other people are often left out or shown in negative ways. Hence, there is a slant in the way media projects anything including gender. Representation refers to the construction in any medium, especially the mass media, of aspects of reality such as people, places, objects, events, cultural identities, and other abstract concepts. It therefore is not the exact picture of something but the way media interprets and shapes it. Hence, it is media representation and not presentation. With this simple logic, we can very well understand that the representation of gender on different media platforms is also interpretation and sometimes also manipulation. In their process of representing gender, media creates gender stereotypes. Media messages are crafted in such a way that their form and content creates a binary division of masculine and feminine representations. Gender stereotypes are simplistic generalizations of the gender attributes, differences, and roles of individuals or groups. Stereotypes can be positive or negative, but they rarely communicate accurate information about others. When people automatically apply gender assumptions to others regardless of evidence to the contrary, they are perpetuating gender stereotyping. Many people recognize the dangers of gender stereotyping, yet continue to make these types of generalizations. These sorts of stereotypes can prove harmful. They can stifle individual expression and creativity, as well as hinder personal and professional growth. Stereotypes act like codes that give audiences a quick common understanding of a person or group of people, usually relating to their class, ethnicity or race, gender, sexual orientation, social role or occupation. Media stereotypes are inevitable, especially in the advertising, entertainment and news industries, which need as wide an audience as possible to quickly understand information. often than not, the groups being stereotyped have little to say about how they are represented. Scientific evidence demonstrates that children learn gender stereotypes from adults. As with gender roles, socializing agents, parents, teachers, peers, religious leaders, and the media pass along gender stereotypes from one generation to the next. Gender stereotyping can be problematic as it can reduce a wide range of differences in people to simplistic categorizations, transform assumptions about particular groups of people into realities, be used to justify the position of those in power, perpetuate social prejudice and inequality. Men are usually portrayed as virile, muscular, and powerful. Their powerful bodies dominate space in the ads. For women, the focus is on slenderness, dieting, and attaining a feminine ideal. Women are always presented as not just thin, but also weak and vulnerable. The male stereotypic role is usually to be the financial provider. He is also to be assertive, competitive, independent, courageous, and career focused, and holds his emotion in check. Mainstream media representations also play a role in reinforcing ideas about what it means to be a real man in our society. In most media portrayals, male characters are rewarded for self-control and the control of others, aggression and violence, financial independence, and physical desirability. Masculinity is often associated with machismo, independence, competition, emotional detachment, aggression, and violence.
आइए मैं आप लोगों को बताता हूं कि गधे का भरता कैसे बनाते हैं। गधे का भरता।
आप कितना अच्छा खाना बनाते हैं।
होम डिलीवरी भी करता हूं।
फिट है बॉस।
Masculinity is represented in mainstream media in many forms. Let us discuss a few. Advertisements usually present men to be in charge, self-contained, and often alone. When shown with other men, they seem ready to unleash their aggression at any moment. When shown with women, they are usually dominant. A muscular body has been associated with the image of ideal manhood. Size and strength are traits that are valued by men, and a muscular man in an advertisement associates dominance and control with the product being sold.
फिर मुझे मिला एंडियोरामास। एंडियोरामास की नियमित खुराक से मैंने पाया सही पोषण, सही वजन और अब
Come on, let's go.
एंडियोरामास।
Then there are also many ads that can be classified in the genre of attitude ads that link the flaunting of authority to being a rebel, with attitude packaged as a cool, desirable male trait. Many of the beverage ads fall in this category.
ट्रैफिक पुलिस ने मारा?
शायद पब्लिक ने मारा होगा। क्यों इस उम्र में ऐसी गाड़ी चलाते हो?
ना, पड़ोसी ने मारा होगा।
हाँ, हो सकता है।
बिल्डिंग से बहुत कूदते हैं ना ये।
क्या अंकल, क्यों एक ही बॉटल के पीछे सब जगह घूमते रहते हो?
पेप्सी पिया करो, हर जगह मिलती है।
और अगर इस उम्र में हड्डी टूट जाए, फिर जल्दी ठीक भी नहीं होती। Thank God you're safe.
Sports media also contribute to the construction of masculinity in contemporary society. Recent studies on gender and sports media find that sports commentary reinforces perceptions of violent masculinity by praising athletes who continue to play while injured, and by using language of conflict and war to describe action. Sports commentary reinforces violence and aggression as exciting and rewarding behavior. Sports like wrestling and boxing are specifically targeted towards males. The success of World Wrestling Entertainment and the huge popularity it enjoys among its male fans can be attributed to a very stereotypically masculine representation of the participating wrestler.
एल्बो शॉट से छूटने में कामयाब हुआ, पागल परिंदा डक किया और ये कर दिया है रिवर्स नेक सिजर्स।
Masculinity in films is usually expressed in many forms, including most men and boys usually keep their attention focused mostly on women and girls. Many males usually are violent and angry. Men are generally leaders and problem solvers. Males are funny, confident, successful, and athletic. It's rare to see men or boys crying or otherwise showing vulnerability. Male characters are mostly shown in the workplace and only rarely at home. The male protagonist actively dominates the screen. Males are usually cast as being overtly masculine. Masculinity becomes synonymous with being an equivalent of a superhero who has amazing physical strength as well as unparalleled mental prowess. The hero is always larger than life representation of masculinity. Though masculine representations have undergone significant change in the New Age cinema. A recent UNESCO report describes the litany of common images of women in the media: the glamorous sex kitten, the sainted mother, the devious witch, the hard-faced corporate and political climber. The report released in 2009 states that at the current rate of progress on stereotyping women, it will take another 75 years to achieve gender equality in the media. Representations of women across all media tend to highlight the following: beauty, size and physique, sexuality, emotional dealings, relationships as opposed to independence, and freedom. The pressure put on women through ads, television, film, and new media to be sexually attractive and sexually active is huge. Although the sexuality of women is no longer taboo, many researchers question whether or not the blatant sexualization of women's bodies in the media is liberating, for that matter, even ethical.
Crazy things.
Many researchers argue that the overrepresentation of thin women in mass media reinforces the conclusion that physically attractive and sexually desirable means thin.
कब से ढूंढ रहा
अब गर्मियों में भी बनेगा मूड शरारत का, क्योंकि नए पैराशूट समर फ्रेश में है मिंट एक्सट्रैक्ट्स की ठंडक और कोकोनट मिल्क, जिससे त्वचा बने इतनी फ्रेश कि खिल उठे आप।
अरे लो,
पैराशूट समर फ्रेश बॉडी लोशन, लौट आए वो पल दोबारा।
Amy Malkin's study of magazine covers revealed that messages about weight loss are often placed next to messages about men and relationships. Some of her examples: get the body you really want, beside how to get your husband to really listen, and stay skinny paired with what men really want. Inadequate women's coverage seems to be a worldwide phenomenon. Although there has been a steady increase in the number of women professionals over the past few years, most mainstream press coverage continues to rely on men as experts in the fields of business, politics, and economics. In everything from advertising, television programming, newspaper and magazines to comic books, popular music, film and video games, women and girls are more likely to be shown in the home, performing domestic chores such as laundry or cooking, as sex objects who exist primarily to service men, as victims who can't protect themselves and are the natural recipients of beatings, harassment, sexual assault, and murder. Constantly polarized gender messages in media have fundamentally antisocial effects. There are strong evidences available across various media which establish that exposure to particular gender role attitudes, stereotypes, and behavior in the media are related to and likely contribute to shaping girls' own views about themselves, their satisfaction with their bodies, and their gender role-related behaviors. Notably, greater media exposure and more frequent media use are related to girls' more traditional beliefs about women's role and greater likelihood of aspiring to traditionally feminine careers. Researchers have argued that media serve as powerful agents of gender and sexual socialization. Let us discuss this feminine representation across different media. Images of female bodies are everywhere. Women and their body parts sell everything from food, cars to toilet seats. Girls are shown as being endlessly preoccupied by their appearance and fascinated primarily by dolls and jewelry.
And today, there's a Barbie doll inspired by me. Believe in your dreams and make them happen. Next time they make a Barbie doll, will it be you?
Women's representation in advertisement are usually women around the following parameters and influences: the impact as narratives on girls' gender role beliefs, body image and belief about sex and sexual relationships, defining societal and cultural perceptions of girls and women, images of women with a focus on class and age. Magazine ads show a dismembered female body with parts instead of the whole.
More about what affects you, the weak.
A practice that, according to media activist Jean Kilbourne, turns women into objects. Most of the time, films represent women in a retrogressive manner. There is an imbalanced emphasis on physical beauty. Women usually play the second fiddle, the more passive character in the film narrative. Most films represent women to be in a state of submission. They play the role of ideal traditional women if they play the heroine, and are usually shown to be very unconventional if playing a vamp. This kind of stereotyping is demonstrated both in their role play as well as their dressing up and other physical attributes. Though there is a significant change in contemporary cinema and women are doing bolder and meatier roles, yet stereotypes are glorified and celebrated more often. A substantive body of research has emerged over the last 2 decades that has examined different aspects of video gaming. A summarized review of some of the available literature on the subject demonstrates that video game researchers have found several recurring themes across studies. One major finding is that male characters far outnumber female characters in video games. The roles of female and male characters have been found to be quite different. Females are frequently portrayed in a sexy role or as a sex object in the games. In addition to a sexy portrayal, women's attire in the video games has been a point of discussion with respect to reinforcing sexual stereotypes. Women are generally portrayed as skimpily clad as compared to males and also wear clothes that accentuate their sexuality. Females are portrayed as more attractive than males, while males are portrayed as more muscular and powerful than females. An important example here is the very popular Mario series of game. The game stars a male protagonist widely known as Mario. The sole mission and purpose of said protagonist is to rescue Princess Peach. Princess Peach has been featured in every mainstream Mario game since and continually plays the same role. She portrays the lone woman in the entire story, functions only as a damsel in distress, promoting the idea that women are weaker than men, powerless in the face of adversity, and eternally grateful for being saved. It is similar to the chivalry of fairy tales, where women are meek and men are brave. The text represents the women in a state of submission and the man in the state of control. Thus, gaming culture caters to the stereotypical male interest. There is considerable gender role stereotyping in video games. Female characters are presented as sexier than male counterparts. Majority of the female characters in the game wear sexy attire that perpetuate traditional gendered role models, wherein female characters are shown to be hypersexualized with big bust, tiny waist, cow, helpless and innocent. The women are to be presented as objects, acquisitions or eye candy. The women, they take on the role of action-oriented decision makers in the game they play, or assume the role the protector. The depiction, behavior, attitudes and look changes, and the size of muscles and powerful look increases. So in narratives where a woman is depicted in a non-sexualized form, her entire persona is represented as very non-feminine and tomboyish. Thus, video games also represent an imbalanced and stereotypical version of gender roles. In a nutshell, media represent very convoluted images of men and women. They stereotype gender roles and twist the definitions of masculinity and femininity to suit their commercial and social interests. Most media messages show females to usually play a second fiddle to the male hero. So they are either portrayed as victims to be rescued by the hyper-masculine hero, the damsel in the distress mode, or as the reward for the winner, clearly demonstrating their position as objects of desire.
ये इच्छा है तो तू मारेगा मेरे को। हिम्मत है तेरे में? ये देखो अंधेरी का दादा, ये साला।
The sexualized body images of women in advertisements, television and cinema or video games are still a very inherent characteristic of their representation. In narratives where a woman is depicted in a non-sexualized form, her entire persona is represented as very non-feminine and tomboyish. On the other hand, male characters usually play the role of the protagonist. Many media activists argue that producers of media messages should be called to account and that images of women and men should be forced to be more realistic. To conclude, let us quickly summarize what we have discussed today. Gender is perhaps the basic category we use for sorting human beings, essential elements of our own identity, and the identities we assume other people to have come from concepts of gender and what does it mean to be a boy or a girl. Many objects, not just humans, are represented by the media as being particularly masculine or feminine, for example in advertising, and we grow up with an awareness of what constitutes appropriate characteristics. Gender is perhaps the basic category we use for sorting human beings, and it is a key issue when discussing representation. The media definitely has a huge effect on the socialization of gender and can affect people's attitude and behaviors toward the opposite sex. Media messages are crafted in such a way that their form and content creates a binary division of masculine and feminine representations. Gender stereotypes are simplistic generalizations about the gender attributes, differences, and roles of individuals or groups. Stereotypes can be positive or negative, but they rarely communicate accurate information about others. When people automatically apply gender assumptions to others, regardless of evidence to the contrary, they are perpetuating gender stereotyping. Often groups being stereotyped have little to say about how they are represented. Gender stereotyping can be problematic as it can reduce a wide range of differences in people to simplistic categorizations, transform assumptions about particular groups of people into realities, be used to justify the position of these in power, perpetuate social prejudice and equality. The male stereotypic role is usually with the financial provider. He is assertive, competitive, independent, courageous, and career focused. His emotions are in check. Mainstream media representations also play a role in reinforcing ideas about what it means to be a real man in our society. Advertisements usually present men to be in charge, self-contained, and often alone. When shown with other men, they seem ready to unleash their aggression at any moment. When shown with women, they are usually dominant. Sports media also contribute to the construction of masculinity in contemporary society. Recent studies on gender and sports media find that sports commentary reinforces perception of violent masculinity. By praising athletes who continue to play while injured and by using languages of conflict and war to describe action, sports commentary reinforces violence and aggression as exciting and rewarding behavior. In cinema, masculinity becomes synonymous with being an equivalent of a superhero who has amazing physical strength as well as unparalleled mental prowess. The hero is always larger than life representation of masculinity. Representations of women across all media tend to highlight the following: beauty, size or physique, sexuality, emotional dealings, relationships as opposed to independence and freedom. Many researchers argue that overrepresentation of thin women in mass media reinforces the conclusion that physically attractive and sexually desirable means thin. In everything from advertising, television programming, newspaper and magazines to comic books, popular music, film and video games, women and girls are more likely to be shown at home, performing domestic chores such as laundry or cooking, as sex objects who exist primarily to service men, and victims who can't protect themselves and are the natural recipients of beatings, harassment, sexual assault, and murder. Films often represent women in a retrogressive manner. There is an imbalanced emphasis on physical beauty. Women usually play the second fiddle, the more passive character in the film narrative. There is considerable gender role stereotyping in video games, as females are sexier than males. Many media activists argue that producers of media messages should be called to account and that images of women and men should be forced to be more realistic. That's all for today. Hope this episode has made you a little more gender sensitive. Take care and all the best.